blunt some of this criticism. We now take you to the Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, speaking for the first time since the ABCC legislation was voted down.
Well, welcome here to sunny Belconnen on a beautiful Canberra day. It's great to have the Prime Minister here. It's great to have Michaelia Cash, my good friend, and Nick Georgalis here from Geocon. And it's great to be seeing a wonderful construction project here in Belconnen Town Centre, an important part of our economy, delivering affordable housing for Canberrans, delivering lifestyle choices. And I think it's wonderful that we've got Nick, who's made some important decisions for his business so that his business can prosper and he can deliver for the people of the ACT. So with that, I'd welcome you all and I'd hand over to our Prime Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Zed, and it's great to be here with you and with Michaelia and Nick. Thank you very much for hosting us here. Everything we're doing is focused on ensuring that we have strong jobs growth in Australia, that we continue successfully to transition our economy from one that was fuelled up by the mining construction boom to one that is more diverse, to one that enhances and supports enterprise, small and medium businesses. And you know, yesterday we saw in the Senate great leadership from Michaelia Cash and the coalition senators, and we've succeeded in saving tens of thousands of jobs. Politicians talk about jobs, we all should, but we should also deliver. And what we delivered yesterday with the abolition of the RSRT was the saving of tens of thousands of jobs, mum and dad businesses, owner-drivers. And what we're also doing is ensuring that the rule of law is brought back to the construction industry. So we brought the Senate back and they've made a decision. That's good. They've made a decision, and so the ABCC will be a trigger for a double dissolution election. And what that means is that when we go to the election, the Australian people will decide whether there should be an Australian Building and Construction Commission. You see, a double dissolution election is about giving the people their say. It means it's an occasion when the House and the Senate can't agree persistently, and so then everyone goes to the polls and the Australian people have their say. And when we win the election, as I believe we will return, and the reforms to registered organisations and the reintroduction of the Australian Building and Construction Commission will be made law. And what that will do is protect jobs. It will drive economic growth. Every element, every lever of our policy is focused on driving economic growth. This is a massive industry, the construction sector, over 1 million jobs. The rule of law must prevail, and as we were discussing with Nick earlier, if you have the rule of law in this industry, then you'll have more construction jobs, better construction jobs, more affordable housing, more affordable hospitals, schools and roads. This is a vital part of our economic plan for Australia's future prosperity. Michaelia.
Thanks, Prime Minister. And today it's great to be here. Thanks, Nick, for having us. But in particular, this is a building site where Nick has chosen the terms upon which he is going to employ his employees. He will not be dictated to by the CFMEU. And we've heard from Nick today all of the benefits, in particular in relation to increased productivity that's bringing to his workplace. As we know, the building and construction industry in Australia is our third largest employer. 1 in 10 Australians depend on this industry for their job. This government, we want to see the building and construction industry grow, and that is why we are committed to the re-establishment of the Australian Building and Construction Commission. Nobody in Australia should have to work in an industry where one of the most corrupt unions in Australia has a stranglehold on it. No one should have to go to work in an industry that is plagued by bullying, intimidation and fear on a daily basis. And we know that's true because currently there is 109 CFMEU officials facing the courts or the Fair Work Commission in excess of 1,000 charges. When the laws aren't strong enough and the penalties aren't high enough to deter bad behaviour, clearly something is wrong. If I could also just briefly comment on a text I received this morning from an owner-driver, Gordo. The Prime Minister and I met him in Melbourne 2 weeks ago on a Sunday. He said to us, "Do you know what I'm doing tomorrow?" And we said, "No, tell us, Gordo." And he said, "I'm delivering my last load because the Labor RSRT has put me as an owner-driver out of business. I received a text message from him this morning and he said, Michaelia, tell the PM I'm starting my old job again tomorrow thanks to your government. This is a government that will stand up for small business. We are a government that believes in the mum and dads of Australia who mortgage their homes to go and buy a truck so they can be their own boss and say no to the union. And last night we saw the Senate work with the crossbench and we did abolish the tribunal that was set up as nothing more and nothing less than a gift to Tony Sheldon of the TWU by former Prime Minister Gillard and Mr Shorten. The one thing I'd say to owner-drivers, though, is this. A vote for Labor is a vote to restore the RSRT, and I can assure you that Malcolm Turnbull, Barnaby Joyce and all of the Turnbull government, we will work to ensure you are back on the roads and you never have to see the RSRT again.
Prime Minister, just to be... Thank you, Prime Minister. We chose to have a company-specific EBA for a number of reasons, and one of those was to be able to engage some of the best talent in the industry. Our company-specific EBA allowed us to pay more to our employees without the on-cost of nominated suppliers, subcontractors, employment and insurance providers, which in turn allowed us to be a more profitable business. The flexibility of not having lockdown weekends and effectively providing 20 extra trading days per annum allows us to be a more productive and efficient company. The on-costs associated with what was nominated in contractors, subcontractors and insurance providers was not helping the business, was not permitting us to grow and be prosperous.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Nick.
Prime Minister, just to be clear, and notwithstanding the cooperation you just referred to from the crossbench, are you sticking to the July 2 date for the election?
Yeah, well, my intention is after the budget, at an appropriate time after the budget has been delivered, I will be asking the Governor-General to dissolve both houses of the Parliament for an election which I expect to be held on the 2nd of July. But I just want to be very clear that we are governing. We have a lot of decisions to make, not least of which is the budget, the most important economic policy statement of the year. And so we have all of that work ahead of us, and we will be doing all of that and making a lot more decisions between now and when I expect both houses to be dissolved.
Why is it still expect? I mean, you've announced previously in the courtyard at your own press conference that it will be on July 2. Now you're saying expect.
Well, I have a very strong expectation, but I'm paying due respect to His Excellency the Governor-General.
Of the budget in May, Prime Minister, Labor has accused you this morning for reports that the government is going to launch a taxpayer-funded advertising campaign to sell measures in that budget. Can you confirm whether or not you will use taxpayer funds to spruik the government's budget measures, and is that appropriate to do?
Well, no decisions have been taken in that regard.
But for certainty, wouldn't it be easier if you just said the election will be on July 2?
What I've said is accurate and constitutionally correct, and I don't need to say it again.
When the mums and dads of Australia come to vote on July 2 or whenever else,
well, it's a very good assumption, Lenore. You've made riskier forecasts than that.
Will they know for sure how much extra money, or whether you're offering extra money for schools funding over that next term of government? And will they know with clarity what your higher education policy is, whether it's the one that's in the budget now or is it a new one? Will they know schools or will they know higher ed?
You can be very safe in assuming that our education policy will be clearly set out between now and the election.
Including whether there's extra money for schools?
You'll be, as I said, it will all be set out between now and the election.
Prime Minister, do you really think that the mums and dads of Australia are going to be as seized with the building industry as you are? How do you make the link between what we see here today and the ABCC and their lives?
Well, there are 1 million Australians that work in the construction sector, and the majority of them are small businesses, actually, self-employed people, tradespeople and so forth. And I think Australians understand that it's important that the rule of law prevails in every part of Australian industry. And they understand that they're paying too much for schools and hospitals and roads because of the lawlessness in the construction sector. They understand that the law should apply and that this is a key economic agenda. But I can tell you that this is the restoration of the ABCC is a very important part, but it is a part of our economic plan, which is every element of which, from innovation, from free trade, from competition reforms, every element, our Defence White Paper, the investments we announced yesterday, every element of our economic plan is focused on delivering jobs. And we are delivering jobs. You see the jobs growth last month. You see the jobs growth last year. You see the strong business confidence. The people are confident. Businesses are confident, and that's why they're hiring, because they're confident in our economic plan. And you will see in the budget further elements of that economic plan laid out on the 3rd of May.
Boom, Malcolm Turnbull. The Department of Innovation has put out an $8 million tender for advertising from April 17 to the 30th of June. This is on top of the money that we've already spent advertising the Ideas Boom. Is this an appropriate use of that $8 million in a period that will be in an election campaign?
All government advertising is appropriate and cleared with quite a thorough process.
Last question.
Mark Riley.
Will you re-establish the money cut from ASIC's budget and give it a particular brief to look at the banks?
Mark, as you know, we undertook last year a capability review of ASIC. That was a very thorough review that's been provided to government, and the Treasurer will be making a response to that shortly. Thank you all very much indeed.
Thank you. Thanks, Nick. The Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, being careful in his language, but confirming that he expects the election to be held on July 2, a double dissolution election. I should remind our viewers as well that the last day a double dissolution election can be called is the 11th of May. So he expects at an appropriate time, in his words, will be called after the budget, which is May 3. The best bet is sometime that following weekend. So I think that's the 7th or the 6th of May there, but he does have a bit of time up his sleeve. So expect that the opposition leader Bill Shorten will be given time to give his budget in reply speech, and the supply bills will be passed through the Parliament as well. I want to bring in our political reporter Dan Borscher now. Dan, a lot of questions about this advertising campaign as well, and just before I go to you, I do want to just look at some of the advertising campaign